take a look around and find somebody to war eagle. It's showtime.
Holy cow! Oh my God!
Hello, Auburn, Alabama, and all points around the globe where War Eagle can be heard and return with joy, particularly on that venerable hillside at Heisman and Donahue. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day to you. And I hope this message finds you truly well and joyful, and that you are dealing with the past couple of weeks of spring football, the feature known as A-Day, in the context of 2021 and not 1985, as some of us are wont to do. Hello, consumers of Auburn broadcast transmissions, and welcome to Auburn Stuff, the variety show podcast where we discuss the philosophy of life in orange and blue, and other stuff that I may find interesting or compelling or noteworthy. If you are new to the show, again, welcome. And you may or may not be surprised by what you find and don't find here. I don't do your typical sports show. As I mentioned, we're more about philosophy. But it's philosophy directly related to the activities and the people in and around the city of Auburn, Auburn University, and Auburn Athletics. So you're sure to find something to pique your interest here. Maybe not. You have to know that not everything is for everybody. If you try to make a show for everyone, it's going to probably be pretty broad and pretty boring. But anyway, it's sometimes salty and semi-tangential blithering about Auburn stuff right here. There's plenty of content out there for in-depth analysis of on-the-field activities. And I highly encourage you to go ingest all of that because it's valuable and it's out there for you. So go get it. And join me when you're in the mood for something slightly different. And for the rest of you who've been here for a while, welcome back. And warm greetings as well to our listeners from Pickensville to Lafayette. And in Bon Air, Georgia, Covington, Louisiana, up in Dublin, Ohio, out in Malibu, California, where it's always about 60-something degrees and just pleasant surfing weather. And down in Melbourne, Australia. That was a sorry-ass attempt at an Australian accent, wasn't it? My apologies for you good folks down there. We have a fairly decently sized contingent of listeners down in Australia and New Zealand, and we welcome you. So this particular show, this episode of the podcast known as Auburn Stuff, it's going to be, I've already done an episode called Disconnected Ruminations, so I can't do that again. I've already done a two-part episode called Reboot Your Headspace. Can't do that again. So anyway, it's been, a couple of weeks, and once again, efforting to find time to get into the studio and do the recording, but it has been a bitch of the last 10 days. You may or may not care why. It's a lot of interesting stuff, but mostly involving pain and discomfort, procedures and allergy attacks and all kinds of mess keeping me out of my seat here. But anyway, I'm back and I've been collecting a lot of stuff to look at. So a lot of this is going to seem I don't know, dated. But again, this isn't a show that's fixated around a timeline in particular. I mean, when we get into football season and basketball season again, obviously things are a little bit more timely. It's kind of weird to talk about a game that happened a month prior. Although, once again, to reiterate, it's not really a stats on the field show. So if something comes up from something in the past, we'll talk about it. And so among the collection of things, oh, by the way, I know that everybody's done this. You all have the various video dissemination platforms, Hulu and Netflix and Prime and YouTube TV, and regular YouTube and Sling and all the other stuff. And so because we have all this stuff, mainly our television watching consists of trying to find something to watch. And so we decided to have a movie night. My wife and I decided to have a movie night the other night, and we searched everywhere. She told me, because she's usually the one that selects the movies, and I'm like, that looks like it sucks. I don't like that. No. They haven't, good movies, good films are hard to come by these days because it's not because they're making bad movies in particular or per se. It's because everything's been done to death. And so when you get to a certain age and you've already consumed something 100 times, it's like, meh. I'd rather read or, I don't know, play solitaire or something like that. So anyway, she left it up to me to select a movie for movie night. And I searched and couldn't really come up with anything. I'm really into documentaries and history and all that kind of stuff. And she likes that stuff, but it's not her idea to sit down of a good time to sit down on a Saturday night or whatever and watch a documentary about World War I or the origin of the cosmos. So anyway, I defaulted to a movie that we watched. It's about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 35, 40 minutes, which is the sweet spot for a movie. Stop making 3-hour-long movies. You're not Gone with the Wind. And even Gone with the Wind had an intermission. And we walked away from that particular movie just delighted. It was fun. It was cute. It was entertaining for an hour and a half. And so I ask you, and the reason I defaulted to it because it was a Tom Hanks movie. It was a Tom Hanks movie I'd never heard of that apparently came out about 10 or 11 years ago. Larry Crown. It's got Julia Roberts in it and a whole bunch of other people that you know from a whole bunch of other stuff. And it was just fun. It was cute. It was fun. It was relatable, especially if you're an older guy. I guess it was relatable, but there's lots of other characters in there that you could relate to. But I challenge you, name the bad Tom Hanks movie. You can't. If you don't like Tom Hanks, I don't know. I always say like what you like, but I'm not sure that we could ever cross paths in the world of pop culture if you just don't like Tom Hanks movies. Tom Hanks made a movie that was pretty much just him and a volleyball that was good. I think the only Tom Hanks movie that I just wasn't crazy about was, what was the one where Big? That was just stupid. I'm not into that whole Freaky Friday thing. But Tom Hanks was amazing in the movie. So I don't know if you have issues with Tom Hanks as an actor because he does such a broad scope of characters and scripts, whatever. He entertains the hell out of me, and I think he's a hell of an actor. So there you go. Name the bad Tom Hanks movie. Trick question. You can't. And I never even heard of this movie. That's because I've spent, I don't know, the better part of the last decade trying to block all nonsense. And sometimes that means the good things don't filter through. So go watch Larry Crown. You'll like it. And of note, something else in our lives. French fries. French fries. We got into this debate again, this old debate. Because what did we get? I had I had Chick-fil-A a few days ago, and my wife had Five Guys a couple of days after that. And I made some offhanded comment about her about Five Guys fries. Now, first of all, okay, I know French fries. It's a hot button topic like barbecue and tacos and who's the prettiest girl, but like what you like. This isn't about that. I'm not impugning anyone's proclivities when it comes to enjoying French fries. However, I prefer, one of the reasons that I like Chick-fil-A fries, that I prefer Chick-fil-A fries, and McDonald's does this well too. But the Chick-fil-A waffle fry, and there's a lot of hatred towards the waffle fry. Don't know why, but the reason I want my French fries to be crispy, GBD, golden brown and delicious. And the waffle fry provides a spectacular surface to mass ratio. So in other words, you have a lot more surface to crisp up and a lot less mass for just dry, tasteless potato mass. And so that is why I prefer the Chick-fil-A waffle fry over nearly anything anyone else is doing. And my Chick-fil-A, although recently has been disappointing me, because they haven't been cooking the French fries long enough. They haven't been leaving them in the oil long enough to get crispy enough. Come on now. Stop letting me down. But the last time, a few days ago when I ate there, they did a good job. I might have left them in another 5 seconds, but I'm not going to complain. And then when my wife wanted Five Guys the other night, I had already eaten. She had gotten home late from work, whatever. Asked her, I told her I'd go get her anything she wanted. She wanted some Five Guys, and I just said, hey, because you know they give you 18 pounds of French fries at Five Guys, and she said, can you please help me eat my French fries? And I said, sure. Can we ask them to actually cook them this time? Because, you know, Five Guys, they do that whole flaccid, floppy French fry thing, which calls out for malt vinegar. Put malt vinegar on your French fries. If you don't do it, if you've never done that, give it a shot. Thank me later. And so I just don't prefer just a big mass of salty potato mush. I mean, if I wanted that, I'd order a baked potato. I want French fries. Fries. Crispy. Would you want fried chicken? No. Rhetorical question. You would not want fried chicken that was all kind of mushy and mealy. You wouldn't stand for such nonsense with something as sacred as fried chicken. So why would you want flaccid, gloppy French fries? I don't understand. But like what you like. Go ahead and get on after it. So that's the French fry part of the conversation today. Another thing, I actually just came across this. I stumbled across something from SB Nation and collegeandmagnolia.com, a feature segment by the enigmatic Son of Crow called Monday Mishmash. And shame on me, I know, I suppose, for only now stumbling across this little gem. It's that I've been systematically shutting out, blocking, and generally ignoring most forms of media for about, well, a while. And particularly social media. Ugh. Try that. Block it out. Cut it off. Trim it down. So the whole social media thing. Try that and watch your mental health improve dramatically. Anyway, digression complete. Of particular note of joy in this multimedia posting is a CNN interview with the most beloved adopted child of the Auburn family, one Patrick Fain Dye. Go ahead and watch safely. I know I said it was CNN, but go ahead and watch safely. This was way back in the day when CNN was owned by Ted Turner and not the Chinese Politburo. So you can watch it. If you're under, say, 40, maybe 35, but I'll say 40, and you're not a devotee of history, you've likely been deprived of Coach Dye's skills as a communicator. And allow me to state unequivocally, of all the essential life skills that have been shot in the face and left to die by the side of the road in our foolish and irrational quest to replace human dignity with inert digital proxies, among my most treasured and missed is the art of graceful and effective communication. Have you listened to people attempt to speak these days? It's horrifying. It's repulsive. No one can physically speak, and I mean form words and sentences in a coherent fashion anymore because, well, no one physically speaks anymore. Think about that for a while. How many years have we been sliding down the slippery slope of antisocial forms of quasi-communication? Text messaging, the whole messenger, social media, all this kind of stuff. We don't speak as much as human beings, we don't speak nearly as much as we used to. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. I sit and listen to my wife, who's been working for the past year from home, have meetings, Zoom meetings all day long with her coworkers and clients and things like that. And a lot of times it's group discussions. So there'll be 4, 6, 8 or more people involved. And it makes me sad. And this isn't a generational thing. This is everybody. Very nearly everybody that she speaks with can't talk anymore. They speak in short bursts with the high-rising terminal, like one time at band camp. It's terrible. You think what we've done digitally is either an improvement on or will have no effect on the essence of humanity? You're deeply, deeply mistaken. The changes are already rooted and far-reaching, and I just encourage you to push back a little bit. Push back a little bit and stop surrendering, throwing your hands in the air and saying, it's just the way things are these days. Is it really? Take any significant event throughout history and apply that statement. Well, that's just the way things are these days. And see how that matches up. Don't surrender. Do not go quietly into the good night. Anyway, Pat Dye. Go dig up all the old videos you can of Pat Dye speaking and thank me later. His ability, and this is important, this is very important to understand this. There's a lot of people who can give a speech that they rehearse and memorize, and then over the course of, 8 more years, they can't seem to speak into a microphone without sounding like an idiot. So there's a big difference here. Pat Dye knew how to deliver words for maximum impact, but the characteristic that gave foundation to his words was authenticity. He was a deeply sensitive man whose love for his players and others around him came through his words and gave them gravitas. He didn't just say things to say things. He said the things that he felt, and he knew how to deliver the words. Because communication is the fundamental factor of the advancement of humanity. If you can't communicate effectively, you can't do anything. Dig deep and understand the fundamental value of effective communication skills to the essence of humanity. Read, write, think, speak, connect. If you can do those things, you can do anything. If you can't communicate your ideas effectively, if no one wants to listen to you because you sound like an idiot or you're boring, well, I don't see how that does anybody any good. So go check that out. Get you some Pat Dye. Good God. It's like honey dripping off a rock on a hot day. It's like sitting on the front porch, snapping beans on a summer evening with the cicadas in the background and Skip Carey and Ernie Johnson calling the Braves game on a little radio over on a table in a corner. All right. Things to briefly enumerate before we get into what I want to say about A-Day. And I know that's a week and a half old now, but whatever. I got something to say about that. So, Walker Kessler came to Auburn, committed to Auburn, is coming to Auburn, I suppose. We've seen how some of that's been going lately. But anyway, Walker Kessler, 7'1", 245 pounds. Center. Stretch five, can play with his back to the basket. But he can also step out and make shots away from the paint. He played in 29 games at North Carolina, averaging just under 9 minutes per. Weird. He shot 58% from the floor, 25% from three, 1 of 4, and 54% from the free throw line. He averaged 3 rebounds and 1 block. I mean, none of that leaps off the page at you, especially the free throw shooting. I mean, is it too much to ask that we get a roster full of dudes that can make 3 out of 4 shots while standing still from a known distance and no one mauling you? In fairness to Mr. Kessler, this isn't a large enough sample size to determine anything. Obviously, a former 5-star talent out of high school and looked like he may or may not have been heading this way after high school, but he went to North Carolina, and so now we finally got him eventually. But anyway, from our 5 position, especially at 7'1", I'd really like to see a rim protector, obviously, and a rebound vacuum on defense. And on the offensive side of the floor, good hands and a soft shot for the kickdowns, the opposite of Austin Wiley. Bless his heart. And an offensive rebounding machine for second and third chance scoring opportunities, which has been sorely lacking recently. A big man shooting threes, I know. I mean, it's like J.J. Pegues running the Wildcat. Almost got nasty and ugly there. But anyway, in Wildcat. It's a novelty. I don't care. We got 4 other dudes on the floor that should be able to do that. I don't need, I mean, sure, it's an added dimension that I guess could keep the defense a little more off guard. But it's not something I really care about, given the potential at the 3 and 4 spots. I mean, JT Thor, I don't know, when I first started trying to put this episode together, I guess I still thought JT Thor was probably maybe just short of a lock to come back because he just didn't seem NBA ready. But I don't know. Everybody says now it's a done deal. He's Audi 5. But anyway, Lucy the Border Collie says hello. Jalen Williams, Chris Moore, Jabari Smith. You know, we got enough dudes to be able to shoot from the other 4 spots on the floor that I'm just not all that concerned about that. And other names that have popped up across the radar over the last week or so. Wendell Green, Desi Sills, the dude from College of Charleston, Zep Jasper. How the hell can I forget that? I love that name. Yeah, so plenty of shooting opportunities there. And speaking of basketball transfers and signees and things like that, among my tabs to discuss today, Trey Alexander. Everything I've read says decommitment, but he signed. So he didn't decommit. He's reneging on his his letter of intent, but I believe that they granted him his release. So Trey Alexander, you see this thing pop up that says Trey Alexander no longer headed to Auburn, or reopens his recruiting is what it was. And you're thinking to yourself, what? But then you also think to yourself, they've piled a lot of transfers in the last couple of weeks. And so is it really surprising to see the future of the construction of this roster and who's going to play where, and to see somebody like Trey Alexander dip? Now, on the whole, I'm a little bummed out to see any talented player peace out. However, I want you to think about it a little bit differently. Think about it like this. There was a football player who everybody wanted to come here a couple of years ago and who played us. You know, I don't have any backstory, but I know a lot about human nature. I read, I write, I think, I communicate, I connect, I can read between the lines. And that whole George Pickens thing was a pile of bullshit from the very beginning. And you know that. And as signing day drew closer, the more intense the drumbeat and the media coverage of, well, Pickens has been committed to Auburn for 2 years or whatever it was at the time. What's he going to do? It's tension and everybody's freaking out. And I'm thinking, you know what? If this motherfucker right now has been committed to play football at school X and now it's all up in the air, fuck that guy. I don't want him here because he's going to be, if he's a problem now, pre-signature as a high school boy, what's he going to be like with a little more freedom as an adult? And stop calling these players kids. An adult. And as it turned out, George Pickens is not a wonderful human being. He's a cancer. Bless his heart. I'm quite sure that there are many factors that have contributed to this, and that he's had probably a paucity of quality individuals helping him make life decisions. So I hope he ends up in a better place. But anyway, so think about this like that. And at first you were thinking, oh, Trey, no way. What's going on, man? Why? What happened to this? And then the article popped up. Trey Alexander, and I got this from that Auburn Wire USA Today thing, Brian Stultz article entitled Trey Alexander on Decommitment. Auburn didn't keep their word. Well, okay, well, let's read this. And then you get to the utterly and completely predictable part, given the time in which we live. Quote from Mr. Alexander: I just felt like most of the stuff Auburn told me in the beginning of recruitment didn't stick. They didn't keep their word, basically. That's the main reason I decided to decommit. The article goes on to say, while we don't know what Auburn did that angered Alexander, It's likely that Bruce Pearl's decision to bring in incoming transfers Zep Jasper, Wendell Green, and Desi Sills at the guard positions that caused the reaction. And then we get down to the heart of the matter. The next quote from Mr. Alexander: "The only thing I can think of right now is just letting me do what I was doing, mainly just being able to play as a freshman, have a big impact as a freshman while being able to learn and grow, things like that." Okay, so Mr. Alexander is an entitled, self-aggrandized athlete who can do something awesome with a ball and therefore thinks that he is immune to the minutia of humanity. He is immune from having to try, having to work, being part of a team, contributing, earning his spot. No, he's entitled. He just wants to come in, do his thing as a freshman, and then move on. What do you mean you've brought in all these other guards? I'm sorry, are you not confident in your ability? Are you afraid that you're not going to get playing time because you're not as good as these other guys? Many of you balk, not you, not the listeners of this podcast, but many out there balk at criticizing a player for making a decision like this. And I'll state again for the record, I am pro maximum freedom. I am not criticizing him for not wanting to come here. Bye. Do what you need to do. Maximum freedom. If something changes, you make a commitment and something changes. If you can't deal with it, well, that's a you problem. And quite frankly, much like George Pickens, I don't want you here. So good. Move on, and I wish you every success in the world. Hopefully you'll grow and learn a little bit wherever in the hell it is that you go. So people, that may have been a big potential landmine that we avoided, that we sidestepped, like the George Pickens thing. Because you cannot overstate the importance of team chemistry. You got one little sour apple. You got one little Sour Patch Kid in the gummy bears, and things can get a little wonky. So I am not impugning his talent or his ability to make whatever in the hell decision he wants to. Let's be clear again. Do what you need to do. Good luck. God bless you. But we may not have, it ends up that we may not have wanted him here. Talented to be sure, but talent's on the way. And experience. Again, look back. You can't have, and J.G. Tate on the rundown and at Auburn stuff and the brain drain, go listen to him and them. He talks about this a lot where I forget who it was, a particular coach that told him you can't have 14 assholes or whatever. You got to have a team. And it also, you got to build a team that's going to have depth and experience. You can't have, look at, the king of the one and dones. Look at Kentucky. How many national championships have they won? They're trying to rebuild their team every year. You can't do that. For the most part, generally speaking. So, you look at teams who have deep experience. They've got the talent. They have the talent, the one-and-done type talent, but they also have a deep roster of juniors and seniors. Because you have to have that experience on the whole to be successful long-term. And you got to have good guys. You can have one dude who wears his ass on his shoulders as long as the rest of the guys bring him back down to earth. You can't have a loose cannon out there. Not saying that that's what he would have been. I don't know, and we will never know now. But addressing that. So what else do we have going on in my world of tabs to address up here? All right, an article, what is this, from AL.com, Tom Green. Brian Harsin wants to start making new mistakes and correcting old ones, end quote, after second scrimmage. And this came to my attention because there is a, you all have probably gleaned that I have a military background by now. Doesn't matter what I did or why. It's not germane to the process, but it drives how I think and how I approach situations. So the line of start making new mistakes and correcting old ones, I think it should be stated the other way around. Make mistakes, correct them, and move on to make new mistakes. And there's a saying that in the high-speed, low-drag world of tip-of-the-spear military operations, you have to train your people and you have to educate your people to believe, to know down in their fibers that when they're training for something that they're going to make mistakes. They can't be afraid to make mistakes. Otherwise, they turn inward, go into their shell, and they're afraid to do anything wrong, so they don't do anything at all. Or they stay static, they ossify, and they stay static in one place where they know they won't make mistakes. And there's no growth in that. You can't grow. And if you're not growing, you're going to die. So there is a kind of a thought, it's not really a mantra, but a thought process, a philosophy in the military, in that part of the military that says, make your mistakes quickly. So we know you're going to make mistakes because you're learning here. We're all learning here, but make them quickly. Learn from them and move on to make different mistakes. And you repeat, and you learn from those quickly. And pretty much you're building a level of operations that enables you to grow competence. So that caught my eye. And somewhere down here, yeah, he talks about, Harsin talks about, quote, where do I want to start? Through the different moments and different situations where in order to keep improving, we've got to be able to move forward with those same mistakes we've been making, and we've got to make new ones. So that's the same thing. Got to correct the ones we've made. We've got to learn from it, and we've got to start making new mistakes, end quote. So there you go. The same thing. Make your damn mistakes quickly and move on. Don't get stuck on one thing. And this is the linchpin here as the new coach comes in and builds this foundation, which is you got to figure out who may or may not be able to learn from those mistakes. So I like that. That caught my eye. Another one, I pulled this a while ago. Nathan King, 24/7 Sports. Harsin says mental toughness in face of pressure critical for Bo Nix. Obviously, Bo Nix critics out there, give it a rest. Given the platform of knowledge of what we know was going on, and the more we peel back this onion of what was going on over the last X amount of time prior to this year, it's quite remarkable that Bo Nix can do anything at all on the field. He had 3 different offensive coordinators, I guess, and no one real dedicated, cohesive quarterback coach. Because as we've learned, as I said, this disgusting onion keeps peeling. As we've learned, did you guys see, if you watch the War Report, go listen to those guys. They were talking about this particular thing the other day. In grand astonishment, like the rest of us, which is when through player interviews recently, most particularly on the offensive line, we find out that no one on offense was being taught how to read defense. Good God. the mystery, if there's any mystery in your world right now about why in the hell this offensive guru that used to be here was laying turds all over the field for years. Why? We don't understand. That's why. The system. These players are being brought in, recruited and brought in to be jammed into holes, into pigeonholes. Here, you fit this bill, you play here. This is what you need to do. We're going to practice these 5 plays. There's the philosophy. We're going to practice these 5 plays until we execute them perfectly every time, and then no one can stop us. Wrong. You have to be flexible. You have to be adaptable. As an offensive line and a quarterback, you got to be able to read the goddamn defense because they're sure as hell reading what you're doing and making adjustments. And when you don't make adjustments there on the field, on the line of scrimmage, you are going to fail, as is evidenced. Woo! I didn't see that tangent coming. I guess someday I'll get over what happened to us over the last few years. But anyway, Bo Nix, mental toughness. Yes, obviously Bo Nix is he's been hearing the all the negative Nellies out there. You suck, motherfucker. Listen, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If that's your opinion, if you think Bo Nix sucks and you think that you don't understand why he hasn't improved over the last couple of years, go away and be an Alabama fan. There's a lot of things you don't get, and I don't want you anywhere near me or anyone I care about. Because you could not find your own ass with both hands in GPS. All right, moving on from that. Same kind of thing again. Y'all, I'm clicking down these articles that I've been kind of pinning, and some of them I don't care about anymore. Like that, I'm not going to cover that. Walker Kessler, we talked about that already. That can go away. What do we got? Oh, J.J. Pegues. J.J. Pegues says he has a lot to learn as a defensive tackle. Okay, so there's not a lot to be said there. Although there has been some consternation among my compadres in this Auburn creative content world. And very well considered thoughts and opinions and analysis. But I don't have a problem with this move because, again, as I said about Pegues, I think on the last episode, that I was tired of looking at a guy who was so clearly physically gifted being used as some kind of a toy, as some kind of a novelty on offense. Put him where he can make a difference to this team, and put him where he can make a difference in his own life and go earn the maximum amount of money he can on the next level if that's his goal. And that was not going to be running some bullshit Wildcat in some obsolete offense, non-functioning obsolete offense. So I think it's a good move for everybody. The tight end room is deep, and we're calling him a tight end. Didn't he play H-back? Who the hell knows what he was doing last year? So the tight end room is deep and talented, and thank God Almighty those guys are going to be utilized, and hopefully utilized properly and effectively. So I don't really have a problem with that move. He's got a learning curve in front of him to be sure, but seems like the place for him. Moving on. Oh, this was delightful. What I always tell you about paying attention to people and who you probably should and shouldn't be reading and listening to and watching in this media world. If you are an Auburn person, again, I will state this again. If you are an Auburn person, stop reading to, listening to, or watching anyone who does not cover Auburn full time. Most generally from Auburn or somewhere very nearby. And this guy is, I mean, he's a clown. I don't, I have no room for anyone whose only job in the media is to create controversy. It's just boring. And what's our word, people? Authenticity. It's inauthentic. And so here's an article. I guess it was from an interview. I'm sure you've all at least heard about this stupid nonsense by now. This guy says that the Florida-Georgia rivalry tops the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. Really? And that's what you're gonna put that out into the world? I mean, again, you're inclined to say something to the effect of, well, haven't you looked at the records? Don't you understand? Yes, of course he does. He's just saying dumb shit to say dumb shit. But have you looked at that? Look at Wikipedia, because it gives you can look up the history of this rivalry, the Georgia-Florida rivalry. And it's obviously the wins are color-coded red and blue. And there is a shitload of blue. Shitload of blue. And if you're telling me, now what's your historical perspective? This rivalry is by far and away better than anything else this year. Well, that's not the essence of what a rivalry is. So I'm going to count. Let's go back to 1990. Everybody remembers 1990, yes? Most of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Florida has won 22 of the games since 1990. And at one point they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. 3 in a row, 3 in a row. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. And I'm not even going to look at it, but we all know that since Pat Dye arrived at Auburn, I believe the Auburn-Alabama series it's about even. Right? So that was stupid. What else do we have here? All right, this article from the Montgomery Advertiser, Josh Vitale. And this kind of throws back to what I was screaming about a couple of minutes ago regarding nobody being taught anything. And so the article is, the most important thing Will Friend is teaching Auburn football's offensive line. Jesus, P. God and a half. And as we unfold this article, we come to find out that, yes, once again, the linchpin, the foundation upon which your entire offense rotates. Not wide receivers, not running backs, not even the quarterback. Offensive line. We find that the offensive line was being taught nothing about football. Nothing schematically, nothing about how to read defenses. Here's the play, run the play. A quote from the article, one of the biggest things we're lacking, maybe, is football IQ. Nick Brom said after Saturday's A-day spring game, I think Coach Friend has done a great job in teaching us the game of football. That can help us make the game slow down for us a little bit and really help the guys know what's coming. Oh, boy. Another quote, this is Tayshawn Manning. I feel like it's a lot more thinking on the techniques. A lot of the techniques aren't built on the offense. They're built on the angles of the defenders, linebackers, and D-line. Well, no shit! I'm so happy for these guys. So happy for these guys that they're receiving competent coaching finally. I am so sorry for the players that have come through here and been underdeveloped. So there's more of that. College football overtime rule changes approved for 2021. From AL.com, Craig Stevenson. Basically it's just kind of shortening the overtime thing, which is where when you have to start going for two and then running 2-point plays instead of drives, like 3-4 play drives. So running 2-point plays, which is fine. None of that matters. I don't care. It is what it is. It's all going to equalize itself in the end, and it's still better than a sudden death system, which I guess is pretty much all gone from football now anyway. So new overtime rules coming. Whoop-de-doo. More stuff about the incoming basketball players. And again, I've been pulling this stuff for a week and a half, 2 weeks now, and there's no point in going over it. Wendell Green is here. There's an article here from 24/7 Sports by Nathan King. Bruce Pearl said Wendell Green Jr. I think it's Wendell. Am I saying that wrong? Wendell? My apologies. You know how I am on that. Although, speaking of which, whoever has been running auburntigers.com and the sports media department, one of my favorite features on the website, which they've recently completely revamped, it looks like, which is not very user-friendly. But anyway, they have a feature. There's a little ear. When you go to the roster and you look down the roster, there's a little ear next to the players' names. You click on that, and you can listen to the actual player pronounce his actual name. And they have not been doing a very good job of updating that. So anyway, my apologies if I am mispronunciating Mr. Green's name. Wendell. I mean, I see the double L on the end, and it makes me think Wendell. But Wendell Green coming to the Plains. Good stuff. More guards. It's a guard-driven offense, right? More guards. All right. What else do we have here? Who cares? All right. So, A-Day. What was that? I mean, I don't know. Really nothing more than a chance to go sit outside. And we should all take advantage of that more. Some things of note. The defense seems like it will be fine. Although with these offenses, fine is probably 28 points allowed. Let's just say that versus Mississippi State, Booger Eater University, University of Kentucky, schools like that, you should expect to score, or you should expect to give up 24 points or less against non-otherworldly juggernaut offenses. You play some offense riddled with NFL backs and receivers, well, you better camp out in the backfield because it's going to be a long day if you don't stay in the quarterback's face. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you think back to the days when a really, like just a hyper-physical defensive back seven could slow down a high-power offense like those spurrier Florida teams. They used to score 50 and 60 points on everyone. And the meat of that offense was the ability to complete everything. Shorter passes across the middle of the field. And Auburn was really about the only team in that little era that could sort of slow them down. And you saw that in beating Florida several times when they were ranked number 1 and 2, home and road, is that when you got those little receivers coming across the field on those little hitches and those little slants and those little down and in patterns that always picked up 6 or 7 yards, and occasionally, not more than occasionally, they broke to be long gains. Well, when you're bringing a safety across the middle in the opposite direction and destroying that guy when he catches the ball, you're going to slow that down. You can't do that anymore. The whole game has changed. All the rules have changed. You just can't do that anymore regarding coverage and hitting. Those days are long gone. And I don't know how you're going to be able, because of how the rules have been altered, I don't know how you're ever going to, if you got talent, deep NFL talent at wide receiver and running back, and you got an offensive line that can keep the defense, to keep the rushers off the quarterback, so the quarterback has 2 or 3 seconds to complete a quick play. I don't know how you're ever gonna stop that. You're not, unless they make the mistakes. But our defensive backs, our linebackers, are more than good enough to be able to handle their business. So that looks good. And what else? The offensive scheme. Look, I'm going to get into this in a second, but stop. You need to, okay, I did the episode called Reboot Your Headspace, right? You've got to stop thinking in terms, they're not playing a game out there. Stop looking at A-Day as somewhere where you're going to find out any information other than maybe who's healthy and who's not. They're not going to give you anything. You're not going to get anything out of it. As I said, it's just go sit in the sun. Go hang out in the stadium and have a nice afternoon. Don't think of it as anything else, because you'll drive yourself crazy. So the offensive scheme, it looks like they're going to be running a competent, cohesive offensive scheme that is going to use all of the players involved to the maximum of their abilities. They're going to be playing all the blades of grass on the field. The quarterbacks. People lost their minds about the quarterback rotation on A-Day. And again, understood. I get it. However, if you think about it in terms of they're not going to show what we're actually going to do. This was nothing. This quote-unquote game was not a thing to display talent and upcoming future offensive schematic details. And so Bo did what Bo did. And then, I've never even heard of some of these guys, but Grant Loy, okay, the source of consternation of all the universe was Grant Loy versus, and here's another name that I really need confirmation on, Demetrius. DD. I'm going to call him DD until somebody gives me definitive proof that, or a definitive pronunciation of his name that comes from the source. So DD. Grant Loy got a bizarrely excessive amount of snaps for somebody who's not good at football. And DD didn't seem to get very much at all. And DD, by all accounts of his film and his history and performance on the field, is real good at football. And I have to look at this because I am trusting right now, based on everything, based on the body of evidence that I have seen since the hiring, is this is a methodical and competent staff that is building something. So I refuse to believe until someone shows me otherwise that they just went out there and said, well, shit, man, our second best option is Grant Loy. So we're going to give him all kinds of snaps. And then 3 other dudes I've never heard of, except for Shea Garnett. That's a whole other thing. How long is he going to be around? We don't know. But anyway, Dede. Why didn't Dede get a lot of snaps? It's It's the zebra effect. When you hear hoofbeats, you can probably go ahead and think horse, not zebra. And Occam's razor. All things being equal, the most likely explanation is the easiest explanation, the one that makes the most sense without twisting yourself into pretzel logic. So I think that it was an amalgamation of factors such as Dede is very new, still absorbing the playbook and the speed of the next level, even at practice. And that I tend to believe that Harsin and the coaching staff did not want to show the potential of Dede to the rest of the college football world because he's not going to start this year. Who knows what happens with injuries or whatever in the world may happen on down through the season with Bo, how much playing time Dede might get. And I'd be willing to bet that, well, much unlike what we've seen in the past, which is when we're up by 40 points, that we still have the starters, most particularly the quarterback, getting all the reps deep into the fourth quarter, if not the entire game. I don't think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see dudes getting playing times in blowout situations and in appropriate situations. And I think you're going to see Dede get a significant amount of that. I just don't think, I think that it's that confluence of new guy, catching up, learning, and he is amazing, and we do not want anybody else to see what we got going on because they may have a package for him. They may have a package for him. So that's that with the quarterback, the quarterback controversy of A-Day. I don't think it was anything more than that. I do not think Grant Loy will set foot on the field unless it's an emergency or a mop-up, a deep mop-up. Injuries, whatever. I don't believe that. I do not believe that what you saw at A-Day will translate to the season at all in any way. And so that leads me to my conclusion. I'm going to paint a picture for you of my wish for a vision of the future of A-Day. So bear with me. This will all make sense in the end. All right, so A-Day has come and gone, and depending on your perspective, it registered on your give-a-shit meter anywhere from they still do spring football to this was an abomination before God Almighty. I think most people, as is the case throughout the breadth and scope of humanity on all matters, the reactions fell somewhere in the middle. Like all life experiences, your generation typically drives your experiential intake. And A-Day is no different, as there is nothing new under the sun, including change and evolution. If you're a current student, A-Day is something to do on a Saturday afternoon. Or not, if you can't stop staring at your phone long enough to find the stadium. But it's there. And a thing to do with no significance higher than Friday night at Sky Bar. If you're a recent graduate, you should be too goddamn busy and trying to live to notice what the hell time of year it is anyway, so you might not have been too aware of the proceedings. If you're a millennial, well, you just hate everything and most of all yourself, and A-Day is nothing more than a racist four-act play of oppression in the patriarchal hierarchy of white male pleasure-seeking. Oh, you're such a delight to have around. And by the way, millennials, we got to really start hard subdividing these generational labels, because my brothers who were born in 1982 and 1986 are the quintessence of millennial. They define millennial. Now, if you were born after, say, 1995, that's a whole different thing. And we've got this Gen Z and this iGen and all these different things. And generations used to span 20 or 25 years because the rate of change of the human experience was far slower, even just 30 years ago, than it is now. And so if you graduated high school in 2012, you have a far different life experience, formative life experience, than someone who's graduating high school in 2021. Anyway, back to the matter at hand, and don't worry, y'all, I can make fun of myself too, because then there's the Gen Xers, of which I am one, and the baby boomers, of which my parents are members. Ah, yes, Gen Xers, boomers, the dead and dying, desperately clinging to the vestiges of days gone by with notions of nostalgia and better times. And there ain't a damn thing in the world wrong with that, as long as you can come to terms with the unarrestable truth that nothing in the universe is static, and days gone by shall never return. They never have, and they never will, no matter how wistfully we yearn. However, children, equally undeniable is the corporeal verisimilitude that your knowledge base is the sum total of jack shit. And not everything about your parents' and grandparents' modus operandi is stupid. Okay. Now that we all know our parts, let's talk about something called generational responsibility. The essence of generational responsibility is the endless path of cooperative bridge building until the end of time. Everything in the firmament is composed of cyclical modality on a linear path. In other words, each passing year is a cycle of seasons and behaviors, but we never end up in the same place, right? So it's like being in a hamster wheel rolling down a hill. You keep revolving around to the same place, but you never end up back where you were. Anyway, generational responsibility operates by the same concept, or it's supposed to. Each generation builds a mode of being through experience, learning, creating, culling, and teaching, and you take in what the previous generation offers. Learn from it, add your own crap, carry forward the best of the new and the old while shit canning the dumb, inefficient, and superannuated. Then you pass along your version of wisdom to the next generation, who then repeats the whole cycle, and so on and so forth, all the while creating not a perfect life, because that's a childish notion, but a more perfect life. I feel like I've heard those words somewhere before. More perfect. Not perfect, but more perfect. As good as we can get, while continuing to try. Anyway, it is a more perfect state of being because it's an equilibrated state of being. Everyone has co-equal interest in the cultivating of a better state of being. And as such, no one is malevolently dominated and dispatched in this model. So how does that pertain to A-Day? I'm going to get there. As I said, remember, we shouldn't think of A-Day. If you're my age, then you saw what Pat Dye did with A-Day, what Terry did, and even what Tubbs did before it just started degenerating into something that just wasn't. It used to be a football game. And in fact, it used to be a whole day. It used to be an afternoon. You know, picnics and concerts and lots of other things going on around a football game. And I think rather than try to just band-aid the process, just try to keep this, kicking this can down the road while really not wanting to have it be what it once was is, I don't know, it's kind of fatuous and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So reboot it. Take the best from what we used to do, put the new stuff on there, and just make it something else, something different, something new. I'm okay with that. I'm old. I'm an old guy, but I'm okay with that. So instead of pretending to have a football game, just stop. I mean, you can, as far as I'm concerned, you can just not have a football game at all. It might be more interesting to have position groups down on the field, have people, have your position groups take turns teaching what it is that they do. Because by God, there is no better way in the world to understand the fundamentals of something than to teach it. So that might be fun. Have your offensive line tell you what it is that they're doing and what their philosophy and what their schemes are and what they're looking for. Make for a more interesting viewing on Saturday. I don't know. Some of you might think that's stupid, and that's okay. I got lots of stupid ideas, but what I'm trying to say is do something different. Stop. All right. You don't want people to get injured. It's a glorified scrimmage. You have enough scrimmages. It's spring football. You need to test you need to see where the new guys are coming in. You need to see where the older guys are, what they've brought forward, especially with a new coaching staff. But do you really need to do that in the stadium at the end of the spring practice cycle? I don't think so. If you're not going to play a game at game speed and tackle people to the ground, all of them, then stop doing it. So let's pull back some of the fun stuff that we used to do back into the fold, like the concerts. Have a few concerts around the campus. Have shut down friggin' College and Magnolia and have a big old have a thing. Have food trucks and have dining out there and do, kind of an open house thing throughout the campus and do tours and let people walk through the stadium and the locker rooms. And I know we get to go down on the field. They did that this year again, right? I didn't get to go this year, which bummed me out, but that's a scheduling thing. So do the things that make it a fun fan festival. That was unintentional alliteration. But and watching 32 minutes of quasi football it's not really fun. I mean, it's a little teaser, but anyway, do things different. So back to the whole generational responsibility thing. So I want you to think of generational responsibility as Thanksgiving. That's relatable to everybody, right? For most people. So Mama and Daddy host Thanksgiving for the family. And on Thanksgiving, you know what's going to happen. It's largely a comedy show. Mama makes turkey, I guess. I prefer ham. Do you like ham or turkey? Turkey's fine. I prefer ham. Anyway, Mama makes whatever it is, traditional dish that she makes. And then, the cousins who are in their mid-30s come over and bring, like smoked fish rolls or sushi or something like that, which is fine. Aunt Gert brings her horrendous aspic dish that is like Jell-O full of fruit bits, which I don't understand how. You guys, we got to start. I know tradition is tradition, but we got to start getting rid of things that don't make any sense and that no one really likes anyway. In the South, if you're from the South and you're over, say, 40, you understand that the reason that we have such weird foods is that we had to eat everything back in the day. We ate everything. We ate the leaves and the roots, and we ate all the pig and all the cow. So we ended up with some weird dishes. We had to do things that were economical and efficient, which led to a lot of weird food. We don't have to do many of those things anymore, so we got to stop doing things like that. So that's where I'm getting at here. This is my point. And so anyway, you have this group of people that come over and bring this amalgamation of food. If you're from the South, you usually end up with whatever the main dish is, turkey and or ham, hopefully both, and macaroni and cheese and green beans, some form of green beans, and stuffing, and about 19 desserts, some of which may actually be edible. But everybody's got their thing. Everybody brings their thing. So what we'd like to do is keep the ham, because that works. That works. Turkey's fine. Turkey is flavorless and dry. I know you haven't had mine. Yeah, whatever. You can fry it. That's pretty good. But anyway, so you keep the turkey and the ham. Let's get rid of the aspic dish. Let's get rid of this. These might be words that get me burned at the stake in the South, but let's get rid of ambrosia. There's no need for that. Pound cake, we keep the pound cake, okay? Keep the pound cake. Let's get rid of ambrosia. I don't need whipped cream and coconut and pineapple. I'm good. So as I'm saying, we keep generational responsibility with A-Day. We take the best going forward. We keep what works. We add new stuff that makes it better. We get rid of ridiculous, dumb shit that doesn't work anymore or that no one likes at all to begin with and never has and has to be polite about it. That's inauthentic. And we make this new thing, this evolving new, better version of Thanksgiving / A-Day. A version where we like all the food and all the people and all the activities. And old cousin Skeeter doesn't need to bring his guitar either, right? So we do that with A-Day. We keep what worked. We refine what we have. We add what we think might be better and we pass it forward. And when the next generation has it, they look at the same thing and they analyze it to figure out what's working and what doesn't, and we keep it growing and becoming a better thing. But to me, the days and the conclusion of this is the long drawn out, ridiculous conclusion to this story is that I don't think we can view spring football in the same light that we used to. That is all. None of these coaches wants to tip their hands anymore. They don't want to show anything. Think about what I said about Dede. He might be a secret weapon. We don't want to show him. I don't know. Maybe it's something as simple as the coaches just dropped the ball there, but I don't think so. So let's make a new version of A-Day. Let's bring some of those things forward that worked. Let's bring the sort of family festival type of atmosphere that it used to be. Let's keep some of the football aspects of it. Let's put the players more out there. Let's let them talk. Let's let them have some fun with it. Let's involve the fans and the alumni and the former players more. Give everybody a sense of purchase, a sense of belonging. That's how you create a better machine. That is how you lay the foundation for long-term success. And I know that was a ridiculous way to get down to talking about how it is that I'd like to see A-Day going forward, because the current model just isn't working. It makes everybody irritated. If each group doesn't have exactly what they want, then everybody pitches a fit and we're all confused and nobody knows what's going on, and that's no good for anybody. So let's work together on creating this new version that is fun for all and involves everybody and solidifies the Auburn family. All right, I got one more screed before I get out of here. Now, here's the thing. The following is the worst thing I've seen emerge from this self-involved, unmoored, and valueless culture. UCF spring football jerseys are sporting the players' social media handles, baby. The most troubling aspect of this is not that a bunch of spoiled, entitled, overgrown toddlers lost in a putrid miasma of arrested development are having destructive behaviors reinforced by people trying to capitalize on their stupidity. No. The very worst and most utterly vomitous aspect of this trash is the thought that there are people in the world who have any fucks to give about the online prattlings of little boys with zero life experience outside of being showered with special treatment because they can do something neat with a ball. An irrational human with a shred of perspicacity is well aware of the inanity of young people. But they aren't the problem. The problem is anyone who doesn't ignore this stupidity, thereby causing antisocial, anti-human behavior to fester and grow like a skin disease. You understand that there's a breaking point when a sociological drift becomes a deep-seated and existentially dangerous psychological disorder. Ding! Guess what? That's the essence of social media. Let the listener understand and think on that for a long period of time. We're only beginning to physically see the horrifying effects that social media is having on society. Utterly predictable, yet untrammeled destruction. I don't know about y'all, but I'm exhausted. And I still didn't get to everything I wanted to get to. But with that, I bid you all good day. And when you rise to the new dawn, put your feet on the floor with determination to be a little bit better than you were yesterday. Give it a shot. Auburn Stuff can be found at auburnstuff.podbean.com, on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, TuneIn, iHeart, which remains our largest download spot, Spotify, and lots of other places in the podcast universe. YouTube is coming. I keep saying that, but it's true. Please download the Podbean app and subscribe, like, rate, and review. You can do that on the other platforms as well, but the Podbean app, you can click the little or press the little bell to get reminders, and you can get the auto download feature and all that kind of good stuff. And I don't think there's anything that you can't find that you listen to on Podbean, and that is the home base of Auburn Stuff. But whatever you do, and from whichever platform you intake this particular media piece, support what you like. And I mean actively support what you like. Subscribe, rate, review, give, share, do all of the things. Give the thumbs up, the like button. Do a little rating. It takes 2 seconds. Write a little review. I like this show. That takes 10 seconds. If you got a little money to give to your favorite podcast or video cast, help. Because things are going away, not of their own accord. Actively support what you love. Participate in the world. Be mindful, be fit, be authentic. Sometimes it's all you have, but most of the time, it's all you'll ever need. Thanks for your time, everybody. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have as well. And until next time, War Eagle, everyone.